me ask you this. Do you have two questions? This is going to be probably what everybody's waiting for. Do you have things that you can put in job descriptions that will attract the right EQ style?
Yes. So I think the easiest way to put this is we spend all this time on marketing copy and the right psychology about writing ads to attract the right kind of client. We know when an ad isn't attracting the right client because we're getting all these potential prospects that don't show up and they can't afford us. If we put the same amount of effort in attracting the right candidate, in the job description is like the ad copy, right, for the right client.
That's exactly what it is.
And so what's the promise you're giving them? What's the vision that you have? And always start your job descriptions not with the credentials that they need. Start with the kind of person that we're asking for. And it kind of flip-flop. Most are like, we need a certified personal trainer. Here are our benefits. Yes, you need to be, happy and excited and, love people. But that's like and by the way, we want you to be part of this amazing culture. It's get them vested in the vision. They should know right off the bat, this is for me, this is not for me. If you want a career fitness professional, we're looking for success-driven career fitness professionals, who are looking for opportunities to grow, who love an environment that pushes you and encourages you to, push your own professional, expectations. And, here are the minimum credentials. That is a very big first step to attracting the right client. You're going to keep them longer. Attract the right people. You're going to keep them longer.
Absolutely. And I will, first person to attest to this, the biggest attrition event is turnover.
Yeah.
Clients leave with change. It could be you can bring another even better coach in. After a coach leaves, they get attached, or it's in their routine, or whatever.
It's Tuesday.
It's whatever it is, right? And so any change. So if you can keep your coaches longer, now EQ is a big part of this. Also, career path is another piece to this. In gyms, small micro gyms, unless there's a franchise or 10 locations, you got coach, lead coach, director, maybe.
That's it.
Program design person or owner. So there is no path. So is it pay? Is it responsibilities within the facility, even though the title doesn't change? I mean, what do you do?
It is.
Eventually, they're going to scale out, right?
Yep.
They're just going to get to a point where...
If you have, as the owner, has scaled out, right? Meaning, if you've topped out in your business, there's nowhere for them to go or no other roles. But if you continue to keep your business going, are there not other areas of ownership that they might be able to take?
Additional responsibilities.
Yeah. Maybe they have an angle of, maybe they love marketing and they want to take that on. And, instead of outsourcing the guy who does the marketing, you're outsourcing that to them. So there's no one, and that's the hard things with people issues, right? or people, anything is, there's no one definitive answer, which makes this whole EQ soft skill thing really hard to because sometimes we just want the solution. We want the numbers. We want the 10
logic.
fours. We want the logic. But there is ways to operationalize this and systemize it in your businesses.
And you got a solution for that.
I'd like to think that I do, yes.
We'll talk about that in a second. All right, and then the other half of that other question was, okay, now they're in front of you. Mm-hmm. You think you've attracted the right person. You're going through kind of you got some questions you want to get answered. What are some questions you can ask that tells you as the owner this is the right person for EQ?
I'd say step back before you even write that job description. What are the 2 to 3 soft skills that best fit that you would say make the highest performing coach in your business? Mine, resourceful. So they're able to figure out problems on their own, which also means as a leader, I have to give them the space and permission to be able to do it. They do need to be empathetic. So that 26-year-old, even though, again, as a leader, I need to coach them on what empathy looks like in our business, they need to have a base level of I can relate to people and I can navigate those kind of conversations. Is it reliability? Coachability for me was huge. So even if I brought in the older coach, they still, often with older coaches, you get a lot of ego.
I was just going to say.
and then as the owner, you're trying to teach them the things that they, maybe in other gyms that they've been to, you're undoing that. And so baseline, are they coachable in your culture? Then you ask them questions that will cue into those. So resourcefulness, I love this question. It's like, if your car breaks down on the way to the gym, you have a 9 a.m. session you're teaching, it's 8:15, you're still 10 miles out. What do you do if your car breaks down? What do you do?
I have this.
We did.
This happened to me.
Your car broke down?
Not me.
Oh.
To a coach. He got fired. He had a flat tire and he was in Phoenix and his shift started at 2. It was like 11. He let me know his car was broken down or whatever. I said, well, you're either here or you're not. What are you going to do? He didn't show up. He got fired. Like that's EQ.
But don't you think a resourceful coach would have been like, let me call the other coaches and see if they can cover for me?
That's the
like
point.
Without having to go up to, like, obviously you've got to let them know. I mean, but even to see, I think sometimes it's less about the answer they give and more about to even see how they think about it.
Yep.
You want to see that they can think beyond the black and white or what seems to be the most
Is
obvious
it? Okay,
answer.
so here I am on the other side of this question. Like, this is common sense to me, how you answer that question. There's no question in my mind. Take an Uber, handle the vehicle later. It is what it is. I got a job to do. But you're telling me the answers you're going to get on the other side of that might be like, well, I've got to get this car fixed. I'll just not show up. You can't tell me somebody's going to say they're not going to show up for work.
No, but again, it's less about the answer, more about the process. Well, you know what? I'd call first. Like, give me a step by step. I'm going to call first. That's what I would do.
Yeah.
My car breaks down. Hey, listen, I'm on the side of the road. I just want to give you a heads up. I'm doing everything that I can. I'm going to get in an Uber, but I just want to let you know I'm going to be like right on time. Or, hey, I'm calling all the other coaches to see what I can do. You're seeing their thinking process. That to me is more telling. Yeah, of course they're not going to tell you. They're going to,
I have a perfect. It happened to me when I was.
But maybe they do. I don't know anymore. They're taking parents to interviews.
Yeah. What was that? Like 12% of candidates last year or something?
They're
It was
taking their
insane.
parents to
But it's not
interviews.
generational though, right? Right?
You know, Socrates said,
Socrates?
"What's wrong with Socrates?" said, "What's wrong with this generation?" And like he lived before Jesus, so I feel like we're not the only people who are dealing with this generation.
It's just it's just gaps.
Here's the thing: if he picked up the phone and called you and said, "Hey Tim, this is my issue. I'm calling the other coaches. I'm trying to get it filled," and that couldn't happen, you would have taken it differently than, "Hey, here's the problem. It's now your problem," right?
Oh, you threw it on us.
When I was not interviewing, when I got the job, when I was becoming a banker at Fifth Third Bank, there was a 3-day mandatory training, and I think it was day 2. On the way in, my radiator blew, and if you miss the training, you lose a job.
Yeah, of course.
So I called them and I said, "Hey, I'm on the way. I was probably an hour from where the training was taking place. Stopped, did my radiator in the parking lot of the auto parts store, got there, and because of how I handled it,
Yeah.
Yep.
she made up. She goes, I missed like 3 hours or 2 hours. Like you know what I mean? But because I was resourceful, because I did the job myself, I'm literally in a suit, and I did my radiator on the way in. She's like, no, that
Followed through on a commitment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She goes, that meant more than the 2 hours of the things that you can make up.
Of course.
But that to your point is like how you handle the situation means more than just, like the.
Yeah, it's interesting.
The
I'd
point-
put something in maybe a little bit tougher in front of them than that one.
well, here's the thing. It's a series of questions.
Yeah.
This is a skill gap. So if we're talking about different skills at different levels of business, your interviewing is a skill.
100%.
And so if you're like, okay, well, I have these 3 questions. You know what? Most people's questions, I think, and owners, they're looking at their resume. It's like, okay, tell me about your experience. Tell me about, how you changed a client life, or, what was and are you available on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 9 a.m.? And when can you start?
Yeah,
and it's like this desperation to get these new
I can
staff
see
in.
that. I can see that.
And we miss it's the slow to hire, fire quickly,
Yep.
which to your earlier question was like, okay, where in that line do you say like, okay, we got to bring somebody in? But you have to give yourself multiple opportunities to see them in different. So how are they on the phone? It's not just the one question. It's now, okay, come for the next part of your interview is to come and teach our coaches, do like a sample, or come and join one of the sessions as a client. you give them more opportunities, as many opportunities to show the red flags, because everybody's on their best behavior that first interview or two. And so you give them opportunities. They really earn that space.
Let them bury themselves.
Yeah, it takes upwards of $1,500 just to hire somebody in your time and ads and everything. And you're just gonna let it go with one round of interviews because you're really not worth it.
Really take your time, guys. I mean, you can make a bad hire. Obviously, that's, like I said before, the biggest attrition in a gym is when you lose a coach, whether or not you fire them or they leave on their own or move or whatever it is. So take your damn time on these.
Yeah, and I think on the same coin as hiring, we have to talk about firing, because nobody teaches this. And we hold on to coaches. I hear this every day. Yeah, but that means I'm going to have to get back on the floor. Or then I have to train somebody up, and they hold on to somebody they knew they probably shouldn't. They probably knew when they hired them, they probably shouldn't have hired them, but so desperate. And I learned this the hard way. I kept somebody who credentially, she was an older coach. She had all the experience. She was a cultural mismatch, but I was in such desperation. And she was reliable. She was she understood biomechanics and everything, but she was a cultural misfit. And mismatch, I guess, would be a nice
No, she was a misfit.
And I waited far too long to hire her because of me. It was
her.
Convenient.
You say fire or hire?
To fire her.
Yep.
And I lost clients the day after I fired her. I had 3 clients say,
"Thank you."
What took you so long?
What's it like? That's why we left. And the fact that they even came back, but they heard on the street, right, that she was gone. And nobody's going to tell you.
It's wild. Well, when you let somebody go, you hear all of the problems after. Like, oh my gosh, I was waiting for you to tell me ahead of time, you know?
Yeah, but we have to realize this is where awareness comes in. They're not going to tell you. They're not going to tell you because, for all the reasons, as owners, there's a certain level often, as much as we say, here's my favorite example of owners as a point of self-awareness. We will say, but I'm really open. I want my coaches to come to me and tell me what their challenges are, and I ask them what they need, and they know I'm available for them to come to. Well, when you walk in your gym and you are head down and you are focused and you're firing off emails to them at 11 o'clock at night and on Sunday afternoons, you look too busy. Again, it's not just about reading the room, but how the room reads you. And so if they're seeing you as too busy, all you're doing is emailing at all times of the night, they're thinking, oh, I don't want to bother him. He's too busy. I don't want to bother him. And then they don't say anything. So we have to say, that's why one-on-ones and regular time with our coaches and our teams are so important, because they have to know there's a regular, predictable place where they can say those things, and then enculturate that. Don't just come to me with the problem, come to me with the solution too. But owners, I see this all the time. It's like they don't, and I say we, because I think we're all, as driven business owners, we do this. We look really busy, and then we say that we're open and accessible,
but we're closed
but
off.
we're
really.
Actually closed off.
Here's a good question. Going back to the firing and knowing you need to fire somebody. The question I ask Zach sometimes when we're on the edge on somebody is, knowing what you know now, would you hire them again? In 99, it's no. Well, then what are we doing?
Well, that goes back to, because we're talking EQ here, and there's the EQ of your team and how to develop that from a leadership standpoint. But if you're desperately keeping somebody in your business, or you're desperately hiring somebody for your business, you're making an emotional decision outside of the logic, which is 100% out of alignment of everything we're talking about as an individual, as the owner.
Well, let's go to that, keeping somebody longer. It's logical to keep somebody longer because you don't want the repercussions after to backfill, right? So that is a logical decision.
Well, there's logic in it.
Yeah.
But the emotion to keep them, that is the wrong logical decision.
It is
the point,
right?
You're kicking the can, right? It's
That's
a problem.
right.
It's a problem that's going to exist whether it's today or tomorrow.
Might as well do it now.
Do it now.
And I hear this. They'll say well, I just need to hold on until I find the new coach.
And they're doing nothing to hire somebody new.
They're they're working to do it, but in the meantime, at what cost? You're keeping them at what cost? At the cost of the clients who are leaving because they're undermining them? Yeah, but it's a warm body, and until I get somebody else.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, you're looking for somebody else, but you've lost clients. And I think this is really important too. You are poisoning the team, because they are seeing that you are
allowing it.
You're giving. It's the tail wagging the dog. This is what in businesses, it's the people. It's like, well, I'm keeping this one person, even though they are against the part of our values and everything.
Well, let's
tail wagging the dog.
Let's solve the problem, how to find people, because that's the big issue. Because the person's holding on to that person because they can't find, or nobody's applying. Is it the job market? Is it we're not paying enough? Is it there's no career path? Is it just a tough job?
Let's look at the controllables versus the uncontrollables. So the uncontrollables are the job market. We can and we can get angry at it, right? Like facts over feelings. Fact, it's hard to. It seems like the job pool is so limited. Fact, it's hard to find career dedicated fitness professionals. Fact, can I or can't I offer $75,000 to $100,000 for someone to work full time as a coach in my business? So all those variables that are out of control, I don't want to say like let's ignore those, because they're going to be there no matter what. As an owner, what can we do? Just like we you talk about this, poles in the water, like different poles in the water for marketing. We really need to start looking at marketing staff the same way we market for clients. How do we attract more of the ideal client in a pool? How many of our owners say like, oh, there's just not enough clients out there who would pay $500 a month for this? Isn't it the same mindset, right? There are people out there, but we have to put different poles in the water. So we have the Indeeds, you have Facebook's one of my favorite places to find coaches. Go onto your local pages, like the groups, every single
the city,
day. Like
town.
the city, town, where people complain about electricity being out and the dogs pooping in the yard. Yeah, those. that one. Right.
Smart.
Everybody complaining about everything. I swear every single day somebody's in there. Where can I find a personal trainer? Which gym would you recommend? So from a marketing standpoint for clients, it's a great way to tap into that. But people will recommend great trainers. And so you go in and you know how many of these independent trainers who are training in their gyms and have a great, have a following, they don't want to run their own business. I found 2 of my best coaches that way. I just saw, they were like, oh, recommend a personal trainer. And everybody's, there's 80 comments. And I just pinged them and I said, hey, I own, Body Project. I'm looking for great coaches. It looks like you have your own business, but I'd love to chat with you to see. A lot of them don't want to do it anymore on their own. That's
the conundrum, because you don't want an independent trainer in your gym working for you. You just don't. They've already
independent or
no
bring them in as an employee.
Yeah. They've already shown that they want to run their own business. They already take money directly from clients. They have a gym they train out of. Why do you want that in your gym?
A lot of them don't want to be. I think that there's a lot of pools or a lot of them that don't want to be doing it on their own anymore. And if your promise in your culture in your gym is big enough to and I'm not saying I totally see what you're saying.
You got an online coach, a nutrition coach that has their own app, and they're like, I don't want them in here.
I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about the independent trainers that are typically, they thought they could do it on their own.
The independent trainers that are failing, but they love training and they're great coaches. They don't want to do the business part of it anymore. How do you know if they're failing or not?
You take them. Because they usually you'll bring them in for interviews and you make the promise. I'm like, listen, if you don't here's the good news. What I can bring for you, I'll do the business stuff. I'm bringing you. Just show up and you train, and I'm going to pay you great.
I will tell you that most of the resumes we do get are independent trainers, and we bring them in and we determine that in person. But if somebody's being recommended by 15 people in a local community group, they're obviously out there hustling and bustling, and they've got this business going on. That's probably, I'm not looking at them. Yeah. You did, and you got your 2 best coaches. So maybe I'm not looking at the right way.
To me, it's just a game of numbers. So if I'm reaching out to 10 of those people, even if they have thriving independent coach, maybe they know somebody. Maybe I'm putting them on the radar that one day, I think that another thing that we need to do is focus on being a great place to work. These companies, I never realized why that was so important. These places that are we were voted best place to work. You go on Glassdoor and you can see the ratings. Mm-hmm. We need to look at our coaches and our employees the same way we look at our clients. We want great ratings from them. We want great ratings from our staff as well. Are you attracting them? How are you keeping them? But to the point of poles in the water and having them consistently, knowing that that's just reality of running a small business in an industry where people just may or may not stay, having a constant feed of people. I think you're always marketing. Never turn off your marketing. Never turn off your
I agree.
pool of
And I
staff.
think you should almost always be a little overstaffed, maybe a half coach too many. That way, when a coach leaves, you're not bringing a brand new body in. You're just swapping hours, and they're already seen this coach for months or years. I think that's huge too. So overstaff a little bit.
I would say yes all the time.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, there's a lot to unpack here. This could be a 2-part episode, but we can bring on maybe like a Zoom training. We'll do like a little webinar for folks out there.
There's so many facets. It's not like a linear.
It's clear you got the 5 things here and the 3 things here. So you definitely got frameworks around how to teach it, how to understand it, so I think that's awesome. This is the big missing piece in this industry and in all industries. Obviously, if corporate America is going hard down this path, independent training. So
fitness is in the top 3 industries losing money because of a lack of training and development in emotional intelligence. They have numbers to this, and it's like next to like used car sales or something.
That would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, top 3 industries.
That would make sense.
That was an eye opener for me when I was like, this is the reason why people aren't trusting the fitness industry, is because of a lack of training and development in the fitness of that space. It has nothing to do with with the product itself. It has everything to do with the service.
So like snap your fingers, gym owners, and think about the opposite of this, of like your whole team is leveled up with EQ. They know how to communicate with coaches. They have empathy, and they can relate to the clients you're bringing in regardless of their own age. You're keeping clients longer. They're referring friends because, oh my gosh, you gotta come in and check this place out. It's amazing. And making it a great place to work. There's less turnover. You got this great environment. That's where we all need to get to. That's what we strive for.
Well, think about it too. I mean, we were joking, like how many acronyms do you have in your email signature type of thing, right? Like if we see master trainer and 50 different things, like you almost know that this is a struggling trainer. Like
and an egomaniac.
100%. You've been in the industry for 35 years and you can't pay your bills at the end of the month, right? But it goes to show that's the resume. That's the IQ skills.
Yeah.
And yet the soft skills are where the gap is really made. And the cool thing about both of them, right? There is education around this. I mean, the reason I love personal development is because it's EQ. It's studying that, right? Ryan Holiday's books, like Ego is the Enemy. It's talking about the dynamic of making those logical decisions when you're faced with the emotional stuff, and that's the things that get people to make the decisions at the end of the day. You can have all the logic in front of you, and if your emotions are too high and you can't control that, you make the shitty decision in your business, and we see it all of the time.
And EQ, it's at the leadership level. So it's EQ as a leader. It's EQ then for your employees and your staff, and then for your clients too. And that's why it feels like such a behemoth, because it's not a straight arrow. It's how do these soft skills apply in each of these layers of your business. And there's no end point. And this is why, the biggest challenge that owners face is they'll say, like, I want to pour into my team, and I want to develop them. I know that I should and I need to, but I don't have the time or the tools. So they don't have the time, right? Because you're doing all of the things. And I always say, like, you can outsource a lot of things in your business. You can outsource marketing. You can outsource your technology stuff. You can outsource sales. You cannot outsource leadership. You can't outsource it, and you have to make time, commit the time and the budget. Like, have a line item budget. Best companies allocate 3 to 5% of their annual revenues to staff development, because soft skills have hard costs. They know that by investing it, they're actually saving, if not increasing, the performance and output from a revenue standpoint. Churn, obviously limiting that. So these are things to implement, like to operationalize into your business. It's just, you have to make it a priority. Without making it a priority, it's going to be the thing we maybe do next year.
And that goes back to what I was saying about having your list of certs on your resume. This is an area gym owners should be investing on their team's continued development. Putting another certification in front of them is probably not going to ever touch your P&L.
Yeah,
right?
This is a great point. This is an amazing point. Where do you invest in your business? if you got 5 certifications over on this side of the table, and you got EQ training with Lindsay Vastola in her whole program over here, 99% of your revenue is going to come over here from this side.
Great
Lindsay's
example.
side.
Owner comes to me and says, I'm so frustrated because my guy, he just got a nutrition certification and now he asked for a 30% raise because he has a certification. Guy hasn't proved.
Tim's going through this.
Okay.
This is a great story for this
in
one.
my book.
So he gets a certification, and so there's a couple layers to this. Now it's like, okay, well, I'll pay for performance. How are we going to use it? Well, the guy now on the flip side, he has this hard skill he has a credential.
IQ.
He has the IQ. But now owner says, okay, if you can sell it, we'll give you a percentage or what have you. Okay, so now now he doesn't have the skills to sell the course or the coaching, the nutrition coaching. So whose responsibility is that?
It's the gym owner.
So then the gym owner gets mad at coach because he's not selling it, but the owner hasn't said, hey, he's just kind of expecting him to go sell it, but he hasn't given him the skills. Now, I do believe that it's on the owners, and the owner paid for the certification. So it's almost incumbent on him to give him all the skills that he needs.
Yeah. The owner's frustrated. I tell you what the owner's feeling right there. The owner's like, oh, you want the 30%? Go sell it then.
Yep. And then
that's what he's doing.
And that's a lack of EQ on the owner's behalf.
That's not a lack of EQ. That's more of a like, all right, dude, I'm going to push it back on you then. If you're going to come at me, it's an attitude. It's not.
And I would contest, does that attitude serve the business owner?
No, absolutely not.
Of course not. So he has to have the self-management and self-awareness that I tend to get a real attitude when my staff comes to me and just asks me for a raise, instead of saying, all right, you have to understand how I pay. You have to pay for your position. Yeah. The 22-year-old is just having his mom and dad chirp in his ear and saying, well, you've been there for a year. You should ask for a raise because you deserve it. And if once that employee understands that I have to pay for performance and he's communicated that and he says, and here's how you can pay for that performance. Go sell this and I'm going to put you through a sales training course, or I'm going to work with you one-on-one to be able to, and that owner has to know how that coach learns too. That's like, do they learn by doing? Do they learn by reading? Do they learn by just listening and watching? That's a skill set an owner needs too, because just because I learn by going and doing, that can actually demotivate another.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, there's all these situations, but yeah, I know where the owner's coming from.
We can all feel the pain. We can all feel the pain
but it's not the right thing to do. I totally get it. The owner needs to show him how to sell and help him sell that and get him a couple on the board and get him some, get some momentum going on it. And yes, then everybody makes more money.
That's it.
Well, I mean, that's the whole point of leadership, right? Like, what can I put into you that's going to make you successful at what you bring to the table? I mean, you're just giving them a part of the deck.
Well, it's clear that I need all the training at this point. So I resign, and I will.
In summary.
No, Lindsay, that was great. This is absolutely much needed in the industry. And so, like, if somebody's listening to this and like, hey, how do I work with Lindsay? How do they do that?
So kind of two different ways that I do leadership coaching. So for the owner, if they're building out their team or need, but really the best way is to do it alongside of team training. So I have an 8-week program that is all modules, videotape. You show it to your team. There's worksheets, communication, EQ, how to make decisions, how to navigate challenging conversations. Then it's one of two ways. You as the leader, if you're confident, then helping those skills stick in your business, great. You have the tool now to do it. The other is have me come in and I work with your team to kind of be that, sort of, I like to say I'm like in the corner with you. I understand the owner's perspective, but I also understand the employee's perspective, take the content and kind of build that. I do a lot of leadership workshops and team building and stuff too.
So we'll put a link in the show notes so people don't have to write anything down when they're driving off the road.
Please don't. Have some awareness.
We'll get some links. We'll get some links for you guys in the show notes. But Lindsay, thanks for sharing your knowledge and opening some eyeballs, right? And like, oh my gosh, we got some work to do.
We all have work to do.
We all have work to do.
Always.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here.
All right, that's it for this episode. Hopefully that helped you guys. Go drop down to the show notes, grab the link, and go work with Lindsay. That's it for this episode. Until next time, keep changing lives. We'll see you on the next show. Bye. All right. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Built to Grow podcast. If you want more help growing your business, join our free Facebook group, Profit Accelerator, helping training gyms grow to $30,000 a month and beyond. We'd love to see you there. Go check out the show notes for the link and keep building something great. And we'll see you in the next episode.